Good morning, Philippines! I need to find a way to do that without peeking the mic. And, welcome to Star Trek Prodigy Season 1, Episode 14, Crossroads, review. See, you can tell I know the title of this one, and I'm not just looking at the thumbnail, because my head's in front of it. No, I didn't say Crossroads. I said Crossroads. And, yes, I got a new Lego set. I got a new Lego set yesterday. The Lego slut? No, Lego set yesterday. The latest modular building. Yes, this is relevant to the story. And since I got the last ones recently, I've been watching Steven Universe in the background as I build the Lego sets. Which, as we all know, is the greatest show ever made. You probably should know that by this point if you've watched 13 of these Prodigy reviews. If you've watched 14, I'd like to know how. It's, and I'm deep in, actually probably about the middle, so it's real good. It's incredibly tight, it's funny, its foreshadowing is, bold, it's just so out there, but impossible to notice on your first watch through, and just a fun thing on the second. It's amazing, it's a fantastic show, and so as I was building my Lego today, and even yesterday, I felt bad for this episode of Prodigy. Without having seen it, it's sort of like going to watch a race and they wheel Usain Bolt out is like the opening act. When he runs super fast, he runs amazing, and you're like, wow, I don't know what's next, but there's no way it's gonna compete with Usain Bolt. And so, I do this. OBS said I wasn't recording. I'm like, oh no, yeah, you're not recording, you're streaming. Yeah, I felt bad. I felt like there was no way this show could live up to the Steven Universe. But let's see how it went. It didn't live up to Steven Universe, I'll say that. So I think this will be a more negative review than it otherwise would have been. Not going to say it's going to be a negative review, but I think that is important to put out there. It's just really unfortunate for Prodigy to come back. At the same time, I have rediscovered Lego, because someone has stopped producing starships, so I have money. Yes. I left this episode with one big question, really. One dying question, and it's not the first thing we're going to talk about. I guess this is our one kind of central theme before we get into the scene by scene that Prodigy usually is. Where are we? That was my big question, is where are we? Because we've sort of been hovering, which we don't know from the show, we know from outside sources, on the border of the Beta and Delta Quadrant, kind of in the middle, heading towards the black hole. That was at the mid-season premiere, the black hole at the center of the galaxy. Which is, Star Trek map has never been concrete, but it's high above the Klingons. It's scale. Let's back up for a second, because Star Trek is I don't want to say unique, but for how long it's been time-wise, I think it's a very interesting sci-fi in that it's not set in a galaxy. It's never been set in a galaxy. It's been set in a galaxy in the same way that Stranger Things was set in a world. I don't know why that's the one real world location I can think of, but it's like, yeah, they're on the world, but Stranger Things is about a town. In that world. By the start of TNG, they discovered, I think, 11% of the galaxy. By the end of Voyager, I think they've charted 17% or something. That's charted. The actual Federation territory is 1,000 light years across in sort of the Deep Space Nine era. It is 1% the length of the galaxy. Is an area, if we assume it's a circle with 1,000 light year diameter, it is a fraction of a percent of the galaxy. We know about a wide range, if you drew a box around the whole range we know, it basically is the galaxy. But you've got the Dominion up in the corner, which we really only know like maybe 10, 15 light years around the wormhole. People kind of treat the Dominion like it is the Gamma Quadrant. We really don't know. For all we could know, it could be the North Korea. It could be like a small but loud power. You've got the Delta Quadrant, which is, we really know, like a line of, maybe a collective like 1,000 light years that Voyager drove down, and not much else. Like it's like saying you've explored the United States by driving from Seattle to Miami. It's like, I mean, you've gone across it. And the Alpha Beta Quadrant, we know a lot about like the middle of the line between them, but it's a big fuzz like everywhere else. We don't know how far north the Romulans go, the quote unquote north, which this episode I guess we maybe do now. But it's been real small. Like we're very much the humanity in Star Trek, even Discovery, arguably, is like the later Discovery, is very much like just a pebble, the pale blue dot that still has so much to explore. Like the Federation doesn't even know what's in their space, like in a lot of cases. But Prodigy, I don't think has handled it well. This was the worst in that sense. Because if we just skip through, we were I realized shortly before hitting go live, I don't know if we actually saw an alien that we don't know from Next Generation Deep Space Nine. Enterprise. The Alpha, TOS, like the Alpha Quadrant ones. I don't know if we saw one that wasn't like the Diviner or Gwen or something, because we started with Okana, who, if you don't remember, a year ago, 2 years ago, actually, it was, depends if it's season 2 or 3 of Lower Decks, was in the middle of the Federation at like a disco rave, and he got here, wherever we are, in that time at Warp 4. On the new scale. I think that's what the NX could do, was Warp 4 on the new scale. Which, to be fair, that might be Lower Decks' fault. I don't know what order they were used in, and Okana talked about Prodigy first, the voice actor guy. That could very well be Lower Decks' fault. We're then introduced to what I was pretty certain were Xindi, but these are Xindi. It's like confirmed right at the end. I think Okana calls them Xindi. That one, again, thinking on it, I could see, like 200 years ago, and for long before that, the Xindi were refugees. They were scattered across the galaxy. That was their thing. Kind of concentrated in the Expanse, but, Guinan made her way to Earth when Mark Twain was alive. So some Xindi, that's not, like, unreasonable. We then got, these species, I think, are often in, like, hoods and stuff. Because what bothered me most is the last kind of, like, map point we got was when we went to the furthest outpost in the entire Federation. So if you remember the Hirogen communication network, I kind of got those vibes of like, it's in the Delta Quadrant, it goes far out, but like it just skirts like where a ship happens to be that's like way outside Federation territory, but it's just close enough to kind of like just be there. But it just, as we went on, it got weirder and weirder, where, like, this guy's not surprised to see a Tellarite. The Tellarite doctor isn't surprised to see another Tellarite. Moving on. Yeah, I can't remember. Oh, yeah, I knew I would forget this one as well. The guy who was from the Relate Station was rescued by a passing Orion ship, as they do with those Orions. Just, I guess we're close enough to where we live. Which is, to be fair, I don't know about the Xindi. The Xindi live right next to Earth, but these are species that generally are shown to be, like, on the Delta Quadrant side of the Alpha Beta Quadrant, kind of by the Klingons. which we also saw a Klingon. So, like, they're doing the species who are closer. It'd be weirder if it was a Cardassian. But it's still, like, it's, like, the amount, as I said, I don't know if we saw aliens we don't recognize. Skipping forward, because I'm sure I'm forgetting one, at least, but oh yes, of course I'm forgetting one. Now we're suddenly at the Romulan neutral zone. Like, the chase, was it warp 9.997, which I don't think is much faster. It might actually be slower than Voyager's max speed. So they legged it. That is pretty darn fast. But apparently we're close enough to be by the Romulan neutral zone, which I don't want to say this is blue, therefore it's Federation space, but, like, this episode felt like you could have said it on Deep Space Nine. Like, everyone was here. It felt like we're really in the Federation. I just was really confused, like, where are we? Like, why are we suddenly here? It doesn't line up with where they said we were going, like, towards the center of the galaxy. And again, we don't know how far, quote-unquote, north the Romulan Empire goes. It was always kind of a shadowy, we border there south, but who knows? Theoretically, it could have gone on forever, like up to Borg space. But, we're real far. Like, any map of the Star Trek galaxy will scale things to larger than they are. Like, I don't think we've ever... The only time you see one, like, how big is the Federation? I want to know if I can find it, is the maps that are used to prove, like, how bad everybody's maps are. Star Trek 1-to-1 galaxy map. Because I really hope I can find it. Oh, no, here we go. Here's the good one. It's the... okay, I'm going to bring up two maps. Often, when you get a Star Trek map, you'll see this. You'll see something like this, where, like, Borg are basically the Delta Quadrant, Dominion are a huge chunk of the Gamma. You've got some of the big powers, like the Voth own all of this, I guess. The Krenim are just all this. Romulans, huge. Like, look at this. The limit of explored space is basically this whole length of the galaxy. Like, what, 25,000 light years up and down? The Federation here, this way is like 10,000. This way, my mouse is not big. Oh, there it is, my mouse. This way, like 25,000 light years. Compare that to Cisco's, like, and Picard, I think 1,000 light years across. Janeway is admittedly incorrect. Like, the 1,000 light years per 1 year rule is pretty solid in Star Trek, and it takes a year to cross the Federation, and there's another constant one. This is... I thought this was the Nemesis map, actually. This is better, where, like, Federation... I still don't think it's purely accurate, is like this dot that's been scaled up for effect. This was from, like, a game or book. It's not from the shows, but I think it's one of those officially side canon sort of things. But you're like, yeah, the Hirogen network is always, like, the biggest thing. But founders are like, at least this much. You've got, like, yeah, the Enterprise left the galaxy. There's this line. Voyager, we know, like, this one line across the Delta Quadrant. Like... we're so small. And so if Prodigy was, like, here and, like, heading towards the Milky Way, in my mind, we went from suddenly being here to suddenly being, like, I don't know, here-ish at best for that relay station, to now we're just here. Like, I want to know where we are. I think Prodigy has kind of done a lot of damage to the scale of Star Trek. Like, even Borg space, here's the Borg transwarp network. Like, it's big. It makes sense that the Borg would be big. But it's, like, it's not the Delta Quadrant, you know? And even then, this map is, like, scaled out. It's the point where the actual scale is so small, you can't put how long the Federation influence is because it's not going to show up on the map. Is that the rant? I think that's the rant out of the way. I'm going to do one more quick glance to see if I can get a good, 1-to-1 scale. No, I don't. But yeah, this is why you never get a Star Trek map. I think here's the one I was thinking of. This map is, again, probably not to scale because the Federation is way larger than it should be. But, yeah, this is probably the most accurate map we've seen, and still the Federation is 10 times as big as it should be. So we went from, somewhere here to now we're by the neutral zone for the Romulans. And it's just whoa, that's like half the Bajorian wormhole. But yeah, late 24th century galactic map. Again, I think it's a bit big. And even then, a lot of things like Borg, Dominion, they're kind of guesses. We don't know. Why do the Voth own so much galactic space? They literally all lived on one ship. But yeah. We'll get to see the Romulans next episode, I guess. I'm not sure if that's a good thing or not. Prodigy's identity of kind of being... It's just kind of become another show that's in the Alpha Beta Quadrant, and I think that's to its detriment. And it's also why do we need the quantum slipstreams, the mycelium drive, the protostar engine, if it's so easy to get around, apparently? I guess that's my thing. But yeah, moving forward... I don't have a lot to talk about this episode, I will admit. I think it was, especially compared to Steven Universe, kind of slower in the start. I didn't again, how... I thought it was such a good explanation where they didn't want to leave the weapon, because no matter how low the risk, there's always a risk someone could take it. But then now they just kind of left the ship. I still don't get why they went to, Mos Eisley, however you say it, as opposed to, there's got to be some central communication, secure place you can go and park the protostar that, the police are going to defend it or something. I guess it is a stolen vessel. If we're in Federation space-ish now, Starfleet had, say over this base when Janeway learned that Dal and, the people who stole the protostar were here. The alarm sounded. This wasn't a Starfleet base, because I think she later asked to talk to the head of security, and no one's in a Starfleet uniform, but, this is close enough to the Federation where Janeway can just sound the alert like that. I can't snap, but, I was very confused about the location here. Yeah, I thought they were going to leave this guy behind as well, Okana. I wonder how long he's going to stay. Of course, from the TNG episode, the Outrageous Okana, and the Lower Decks episode, I don't know, the one where they carved their names in the desk. But I completely lost my train of thought. Oh yeah, he took so long to come back. I was they're not just going to leave him. They probably... had to track this guy down. It probably took a bit of time. Welcome home, Alex.
Hello.
I think I meant to mention Alex wasn't here, but they're here now. Going through, again, not a whole lot to start. I found it weird that...
Oh, you're watching The Sims again.
Yeah, The Sims. I found it weird that, what's her name? Rock Talk saw a Starfleet officer and didn't recognize him. That one did feel a bit weird, but they changed their uniform so much. Did I talk about this in the last stream? I realized at one point,
was last stream the one where you accidentally were recording for an hour and then you realized
I think
you didn't
so.
record a single thing?
Maybe I did. I see where you're getting with this.
Because you might have said it, but in the time you didn't record.
Right now,
Are you recording right now?
Yes.
Are you sure?
Well, I'm not recording, but I'm streaming.
I just want to make... You don't have your camera on, right?
No,
Okay,
I would have told you. Right now, the current Starfleet uniforms, or at least the uniforms that have been active within the last year, are the Deep Space Nine one. Some people call it First Contact. It's that one. The Lower Decks one. The one that Janeway's crew is wearing now, which might be the Lower Decks one. It's similar, but I don't think it is. The Prodigy one we see the crews wear. The Prodigy one holographic Janeway wears. I think the Prodigy one that Chakotay wears. No, Prodigy.
Progeny.
No, that's also something in the show.
Progeny.
Um,
I'm not even making jokes to you. I'm making jokes that only me and Game Coach fans know.
that there's like 6 active uniforms in the past year that I can think of, if you don't count the dress ones and whatever. Like, I'm not gonna be that harsh, but that's a lot. That's a lot.
You know what else is a lot? Up your butt.
Oh, again, with this doctor being the best Tellarite I think we've seen. Like, when he met another Tellarite, he just instantly switched to, like, the Tellarite rudeness. He's like, all right, I can kind of drop the fitting in with other species thing, where he still has it, but, like, he knows that the crews know the Tellarite culture, and he knows the limits. This one, he's like, yeah, no, this is another Tellarite. Like, I'm just gonna be a Tellarite now. Loved it. You know, I love this guy. And yeah, I guess we learned Jenkum Pog. Pog's like a bit of an insult. That could go places. That could be nice. Sort of like a reclaimed word kind of storyline. Actually, this is the storyline that one of the Steven Universe characters is going through when I was building my Lego. So again, you can't really keep up. You can't really compare. I'm sorry, this faceless suit has distracted me. He's got his, like, mask open. That's a faceless alien, I'm pretty sure. I was a bit confused how the Trill, who I love because they're a Trill, recognized Gwen, and I realized, oh yeah, that she looks like her dad. They're clearly the same species. But I remember at first I was like, this feels like a bit of a leap. Like, the first Gwen you meet just happens to be Gwenilda or whatever. Also, before I forget, because I keep forgetting to mention it, I learned watching Lower Decks, watching Steven Universe again, the guy that voices Rutherford is in Steven Universe. He plays Jamie the Mailman. And that tripped me up, because he does, like, a theatrical voice for most of it, but when he does his normal voice, it's just Rutherford. And I was like, hang on a minute, halfway through the episode, I'm like, that's Rutherford. But yeah, another reason to go watch Steven Universe. I felt like I understand why Gwen would have run. I understand why. No, that's it. I think the other people, like, could have been handled a bit better on why they can't just talk to Starfleet. Like, Jenkum basically got his feelings hurt and stopped there. Didn't really chase after the guy. Dal, I think I get why he's scared. I still feel like the Dal we've seen probably would have said something, would have tried. Like, I get they're probably afraid of being arrested, but I don't know. The way I've seen, I feel this crew grow. It wasn't the best. The one person I can think of who absolutely wouldn't have had a reason not to talk is Rock Talk, and that's why they didn't recognize the Starfleet officer. That was, like, the sole reason. But, yeah, I think at the end, you know, when they actually fired on Janeway, they had a pretty gosh darn good reason. But I feel like that should have been earlier. You know, maybe the story should have been reworked a little bit, to give them more of a reason to not want to talk. Like, who are they gonna are they just gonna believe some kids? It's like, well, probably not, but are they gonna risk hooking up to the protostar right away when it might actually destroy them? If they say, like, hey, under the bridge there's a weapon, it'll destroy you, like, they can say a lot about it, you think they'd at least have someone check, or, like, connect to, like, a shuttle you know, maybe connect it to a shuttle that's not going to destroy the Dauntless or the Protostar. Maybe even dismantle the weapons on the shuttle. It's like, surely they'd check. And then they'd be like, oh, wow, these kids were right. Like, I don't know, are there logs on the planet they were trapped at where they could prove the Diviner's evil? Heck, the Diviner himself can't prove that he's not evil. Like, you could even have something with him where, I mean, now we're getting to a story that would never happen because I've just ended your show. Of, like, I don't know, like, I might be evil. I genuinely don't know. Which isn't new, but, you know, it can be interesting. Yeah, later on, when they're fleeing from the Dauntless, it's like, we can't hail them, or, like, they'll think it's aggressive. It's like, what if you just stop? I get that's the same thing where maybe they'll arrest you, they won't believe you, but they won't fire on you because you've stopped, you've lowered your shields, they can board. They can't interface with you until they get on. You could greet them at the shuttle or something. Like, why not? Why not just stop? Yeah, why not borrow, like, one of their communication devices? Like, buy a communication device here. Does Okana have one? If Okana has a communicator on his person, then we've just solved the problem. Because Okana, well, you can use that communicator to hail Starfleet. Like, yeah, I don't know. The bikes they were on probably had communicators. Moving forward, and that's another point. Okana, now that he's on, like, I know he's dubious. I know he's dubious. I don't know if he's ever done anything, like, illegal. Maybe he has since TNG, you know? I mean, he's good enough to a year or two ago have been a DJ at an official Starfleet gathering. So he's got to have some credibility, and surely he can talk to them to at least check. Like, I've seen this weapon. What's the harm in checking? We're 6 kids, put us in the brig for 2 hours. Will you just give it a good look over? You know, what do you do to Chakotay? No one knows. Like, that's true. I don't know, is there a Vulcan on Janeway's ship? Meld with all the kids, and you've just proved. The kids don't know this, but, like, fair enough, I can't use that as a reason that the kids wouldn't have done something, but of any Vulcan on this ship would solve the problem. Okay, looking forward again. I don't think there's too much. Yeah, around here is where the episode started picking up. I will say that. Like, it was definitely a lot tighter. Yeah. Was it ever explained why Okana was in this little sand speeder, we'll call it, because it's clearly a sand speeder? Maybe it's his. Maybe he was just a coward. I don't know. I probably wasn't paying close enough attention. But let's go forward a bit. Oh, I want to say as well, I'm pretty sure, is this Okana's ship that we see at the beginning? Because when it flies over, is in Okana's ship from TNG. This one, there. I'm pretty confident I own a few models of this ship, because it's, like, I think the most reused alien design ever. It's, I think it might become the Zoza. It might end as the Zoza, Cassidy's ship. It's like an Axios. That's a Doctor Who villain. An Axon. It's like the Star Trek ship. That's like, oh yeah, I know that one. It's the ship that they reuse all the time. I'm looking at my wall now to see if I can find it, but that's just the Federation. All I see is the Zoza. But yeah, I don't know if that's let's animate that one ship they reuse all the time, or if it's let's make Okana's ship, and Okana's ship happened to be, you know what, why not? Let's just Google this, because if it is Okana's ship, I can pretty easily get to the other one. Star Trek Okana ship. We'll also learn if I've been Okona. I'm not sure. Oh. Okona, piloted the Merchantman ship, apparently, from The Search for Spock. So one of the other pretty frequently reused models, but not the one I was thinking. Let me get the show back. Yeah. Also, I didn't think he had an eye patch in Prodigy, because I remember reading something. There was a comment someone made that was like, "Oh, are we gonna learn how Okona got his eye patch?" But I guess not. That threw me off earlier in the review. This is Janeway the Sith, quite clearly. Quite clearly. And yeah, moving forward, just looking a bit. I didn't have a whole lot to say about this episode, I'll be honest. The Pterodax ships had me have to pause and think for a moment, as I do, where I'm like, okay, they're not Valdors, but has the supernova happened yet? No, that was another point. The Andorian mentioned negotiations with the Romulans, which was a bit weird. He might have been referencing the treaty, like the Treaty of Alderaan. That's the one. Is it actually? No, I think I learned this. The neutral zone was a different treaty, wasn't it? I don't remember. The treaty that made the neutral zone, but this is like a post-Dominion War. This is a lower decks Romulan Empire. There's nothing I'm aware of that we'd be negotiating for. Maybe like the new neutral zone after this apparent massive expansion into the Delta Quadrant. But yeah, that's just me. Like, I always have to go like, okay, let's see. When are we in relation to the supernova? And is Deep Space Nine ended? And how are we with the Romulans? Like, the Romulans are probably the species you have to sit down and think with the most to be like, okay, what year is it? And then what is our relation with the Romulans? Like, they're probably the biggest one, because the Klingons kind of just become our friends and stay that way. The Romulans are all over the place. And honestly, after Deep Space Nine, up to, like, the Nova, even then, through to, like, Discovery, 32nd Century stuff, I don't really know where we stand with the Romulans. Because Star Trek has it has a hobby of kind of just silently ignoring Deep Space Nine in a way that's not really ignoring it, but not exactly building off of it either. Oh boy. People don't like it when I say that. There we go. There goes my second concurrent viewer. People don't like it when I say Star Trek has a hobby of, like, ignoring Deep Space Nine. I don't know why. If there's anyone in the chat who wants to engage in this conversation, I'd happily have it, because it's not an insult to Deep Space Nine. I love Deep Space Nine. I just think that every Star Trek set after or during Deep Space Nine hasn't done a great job. Like, it's well known that in First Contact they were going to destroy the Defiant until it was probably Ira was like, well, you can't destroy my ship in your movie. What the heck? Like, you know, it was kind of looked down on. I don't know if looked down on's the right word, but it wasn't the big Star Trek at the time. Definitely not. And, you know, you have that. You have Worf just kind of being in Starfleet and Nemesis. You have the Cardassians still kind of being standard Cardassians and lower decks. Again, the Romulans seem like, you know, pre-Dominion War Romulan, their relationship with the Federation compared to all the growth that happened there. You could argue the entire treatment of Section 31, even Enterprise, that's a minor thing, but it was like the Federation Charter that created Section 31, so them existing before the Federation, it can work, but, you know, it's fudging things a bit. Like, until Odo showed up in Prodigy, and honestly, like, that and the Lower Decks episodes are the only times I think that they've really kind of built off, or at least, like, acknowledged Deep Space Nine. But maybe that's just me. I think that's probably going to be it for today. I don't have any more Lego to build, which is sad. That is sad. I've got to display my boutique hotel, bespoke hotel. I don't know what it's called. I built the thing. But yeah. And hopefully avoid the channel becoming a Lego channel. Just rebranding. If you want to see that, I did a review of the pet store modular building. Like, I don't know, now that the ships are done, maybe I could try some of those. Maybe that's an artistic and autistic thing. I don't know. I feel I shouldn't make a Lego channel or I'd completely abandon this one. But, yeah, that's Prodigy today. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.